And we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to Whiskey Charlie, the War Game Chat, our monthly show on YouTube. I'm your host, Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me are my two co-hosts, everybody's favorite Gimp with the Limp, TheGimpyGamer, Nate Rogers. How's it going, Nate?
It's another glorious day in the core, man. I'm actually feeling pretty good.
There you go.
Feeling pretty good.
With your green screen even.
Yeah, but I got to work with the camera so I can actually have the green screen in the background. So it's going to be an adjustment over time.
There you go. And then we have the notorious War Game Wizard from Oz, Kev Sharp from the big board. How's it going, Kev?
not as good as Gimpy, obviously.
That's true. That's true. You don't have a green screen.
No, I know. It's fancy. All you guys getting all high tech and shit.
I know.
What's happened to wargaming?
I'll tell you what. Look into this type shit. This one actually folds up, like it rolls down like that old projector screen, like back in high school, whatever.
Yeah.
Look, you look like a college professor. You should know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea, man. I'm just here. I don't even have. I don't even have proper lighting anymore. I've got dappled shadows from trees falling across the board, trying to take photographs and video. It's a shit show at the moment. How you doing, Mo?
Yeah, no, not too bad. Not too bad. I did go on a little trip, which was really cool, and got to go up to the Black Hills of South Dakota, where it was absolutely awesome. I mean, really awesome. And the people were super nice. The area is gorgeous. Got to see Mount Rushmore, spent some time there, got a bunch of pictures, and then also went up north to Deadwood, excuse me, and got to enjoy the history of that area and visited the Mount Moriah Cemetery. Yeah, the Deadwood.
Oh, no shit.
I went to Mount Moriah Cemetery and paid my respects for Wild Bill and Calamity Jane, as well as Seth Bullock's grave. So it was really cool to see.
Nice.
And yeah, and we actually stayed at the Bullock Hotel, which was really cool. As Seth Bullock and Saul Starr created that hotel. They built that hotel in 1895, and it's still there. And there are 28 of the original 63 rooms are still there.
That's pretty neat.
Which was really neat. So I really loved it there. I mean, a lot of things were shut down because we went there after October 1st. We went there like October 3rd or 4th. Right. And everything shuts down at after Memorial Day or Labor Day. I should say that's when everything shuts down. And because they generally start having colder seasons at that point and snow and things like that. So they just shut everything down. So that was the only drawback to it, but it was also great because there was nobody there. Not that there's a ton of people there anyway. I mean, the population of Keystone, where we stayed by Mount Rushmore, is 250 people. And Deadwood is like 15 or 1,600. So very small. Definitely my type of area. Real quiet, beautiful, gorgeous scenery. I mean, just the mountains and everything. And I'm like, man, I'd like to retire there. It's just really pretty. So who knows?
I'm with you. I say we go somewhere, get a nice plot of land with no one around, build the warehouse.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is driving around, and I posted it on the channel as a short. We're driving around and my wife is like, oh my God, stop the car. Because I was going to stop anyway. And here's a bison just chilling out on the side of the road, having lunch. So it was like, this is pretty cool. They just walk all over the place, you know.
That's awesome.
They try to keep them in the state park, but sometimes they just wander off and wild animals. You're in a more of a wilderness area, so you're going to see wild animals there. And I thought that was really neat.
Aren't they close to extinction now, though? Weren't they like hunted to real low numbers?
They were. There's a couple different buffalo there. They have the bison. I forget the other one. The nomenclature on them, but they were almost hunted to extinction, and now they're protected, and as they should be, to keep them from being extinct. Right. And it was really cool because when you go through the wildlife loop in Custer State Park, they have, I mean, it's a beautiful long drive, and you just drive like 20, 25 miles an hour is the speed limit. You just enjoy the scenery, and then you'll see different things like prairie dogs popping up in their little cities and, you know, barking and chirping and stuff. And then if you're lucky, you may see like one of the rams that's out there. And then, of course, they've got bison and antelope and things like that. So it's pretty cool. If you've never made the trip there, I think it's definitely worth going up there for a week. We didn't get to see Badlands. That was one thing we wanted to see. So next trip, because my wife's already saying, we'll go next time we go here. We'll go to this place. And I was like, next time she's on board. Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Then you can go property shopping.
Exactly. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see how that goes. What about you? What have you been up to? I know you've been going through all that stuff with your house.
Oh yeah, it's just
Bit of a cluster.
Construction in 2022 is entertaining, but we're getting away this weekend. I think we're going to go stay with friends for Halloween and get out of town and escape the concrete trucks and the dirt trucks and stuff like that.
Take the kids trick or treating.
I won't be doing that. No, they can go trick their own treats elsewhere without me. So yeah,
that's what Gimpy will be doing, taking all the kids trick or treating. We've got it down to a science now, though. Got a little cart we pull behind us, a little pedal cart we pedal around everywhere, and that way the kids can fill up their little buckets, dump it in the container, and we can just keep on trucking.
No, to answer John's question, they don't drop a lot of F-bombs or any of the other C words that they use in this TV show up in Deadwood. They're actually really nice and, gentle people, not like they were back in the day. And if they did, it wouldn't faze me in the least. I could swear just as good as they could. It wouldn't bother me because the show didn't bother me either.
Exactly.
I never watched that one.
You never watched Deadwood?
Yeah, me either.
Oh my God.
I know Timothy Oliphant's in it, and I really like him as an actor, but I just never got around to watching it.
Have you ever watched Justified?
Yes, love Justified.
You love Justified. You love Raylan Givens?
Yeah.
You need to watch Deadwood because you'll love Seth Bullock. He plays Seth Bullock. And he's like Justified with no limits.
Oh, okay. That's cool because I like that character. I'm on season 5 right now. My wife and I watch one episode a night. That's it.
Oh no, Deadwood. I just will warn you for anybody who has never watched it. If you go to watch it with your wives, just warn them ahead of time. This is pretty heavy language. And you get used to it very quickly, but because the first time I had my wife sit down and watch it, I said, "Here, watch this show." And after about 5 minutes, she turned to me. She goes, "What the hell are we watching?" I said, "Just trust me. Just go with it." She goes, "The language." And I says, "It's not really that offensive to,
she's married to a Marine.
A lot more."
I mean,
exactly. So I said, just think it's me, when I'm really pissed off about something. But that's how they talked back then, because they talk about that in a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, that they found that they did speak that way. They were hard living people in hard times.
Mm-hmm.
It was a frontier. So they did not, they were not, soft people, so it was, it's interesting, but it's kind of a mix of, they take history, they fictionalize a lot of pieces of it. They take real people and real situations, and they fictionalize it, and they turn it. It's basically like, if you like The Sopranos or Goodfellas or something like that, it's kind of like that set in the Old West. And there's some political, issues that go on with them trying to become part of the United States, statehood and stuff. And then, of course, there's a couple of bad guys. I'm not going to really go into detail on, but they're really good bad guys. And Wild Bill's in it, and him and Bullock get along really well, until Jack McCall shows up to kill him, and he kills him, which is all historical fact. But the fact is that Bullock never met Wild Bill. He was dead before Bullock got there. Yeah. So that is one of the things where they twisted the history to fit the show, but it was fine. It was fine. I was fine with that. But really good, really, really worth, in my opinion, it's worth watching. And then they also, because it was canceled before they completely finished the show, they brought them back for a 2-hour movie. So that wraps up. They come back 10 years later when South Dakota becomes a state, and then they kind of tie up everything, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's HBO, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, I've got HBO for the actual best show ever, Rick and Morty. So I'll be able to watch little Deadwood now too. Tell me you love Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty, best show ever.
Never watched an episode.
Never watched it.
You two.
Not a big HBO guy.
Disgust me. All right, commenters, back me up here. Rick and Morty, best show ever been created.
Welcome to Bison Talk. 60 minutes you'll never forget.
All right, yeah, let's get to war game stuff.
So Tim is correct. Custer State Park is great. And no, it is not. There is one other thing I will mention, which is tied into wargaming. When I was there, I also did go to Crazy Horse where they're doing the Crazy Horse Monument, similar to Mount Rushmore. And it's really cool. It's not anywhere near finished, but it's really cool. The best part about it, though, was the museum that they have there. It's just full of really interesting artifacts, information, things like that. And to me, as a wargamer and, military history we're all into, to me, it was sobering to see some of the artifacts from the Little Bighorn there.
Right.
And I thought that was really, it was kind of sobering. Like I said, when you know the slaughter that happened, you're seeing bullets and buckles and things like that were recovered from the battlefield. And you're like, these are all undead. These were all dealing with dead people, the people that were slaughtered. So I was like, wow, that was kind of, to me, it kind of hit me a little bit more. Maybe other people were just kind of glancing and moving on. I was like, wow, that's pretty neat, being that close to history. So I like that.
And who said Marines don't have feelings?
Yes.
Okay, don't ever do that again. Bad Mo.
Oh, my virgin years. Oh, fuck off.
He does
Why don't we bring it back on track? So there, another person likes Justified.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. The Pinkertons. And let me tell you right now, another thing about Deadwood. Wu and Swearingen together make comedy gold. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. Wu is the guy who runs the Chinese alley in Deadwood, and he doesn't speak a lick of English except for a couple words. Hilarious. And Herman Swearingen, Al Swearingen, they communicate on another level, and it's really good. You got to see it. And anybody who's seen the show knows what I'm talking about. So, what's the new games you guys have been playing?
Kev, you want to go first? Or you want me to take this one?
Why don't you go first, my friend?
Well, I have absolutely been swamped, but I've actually been able to get ahead and get a lot of videos recorded. I have been smashing some American Tank Ace here recently. I've actually recorded 3 matches on that and really enjoy it. It's actually probably now my top favorite of those like roll and play type games, the Hunters, Silent Victory, that type. And I really like how this one feels like it's got more choices involved with it, because you've got the battle board. You have to actually worry about getting flanked, what direction you're firing, what type of ammo you're firing. Are you going with machine guns? You're going with HE. Although I have found HE to be a little overpowered in the fact that if you hit it against AT guns or infantry, you're automatically pretty much destroying them with one hit. No, I understand.
As you would.
Yeah.
As you would. In
my games, though, I got lucky, and almost every shot I was firing, I was rolling good. So it was like hit at medium range. I'm 2d6 hitting like 5 or 6 and under on all of these, and just wiping the map pretty much right off the bat, and not getting a whole lot of the ones. So I think I might have to adjust the rules for that optional rule where you can increase the threat once you start taking out enemies, that they can start targeting you on 1s and 2s instead of just 1s. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the game itself, I love it. I think it's excellent. I would sit there and just keep playing matches of it over and over again. If I didn't need the table space, it would stay there.
Right. Well, that's Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of Greg's games.
So it's going to be the same as the British one that he's doing?
Yes.
That's in Africa? Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's the same engine. So the thing to remember, though, is when you're shooting at that tank, the other tanks you're just part of a line. You're a part of like a company or platoon or whatever. So that's why they're not shooting at you. And I think a lot of people, not a lot, but there are some people that overlook that or forget that. Why haven't they shot at me? I just shot at this other guy. Why didn't they shoot? Because they're getting shot at by somebody else over there. Right. It's just, you're part of the overall big picture. So
I did make a mistake early on in the first couple of matches and misplayed how suppression worked and was taking away the action for enemy infantry. So instead of just suppressing them and still letting them attack, I just wasn't letting them attack. So I didn't realize that until the third match. But I think it's quicker playing, actually, than the other ones. You don't have like this huge feel. It feels like you are in just that small bit of the battlefield, just your piece that you have to worry about. That way you can get a game done in half an hour. And then if you do have a follow-on mission, say you do the attack and they counterattack you, which I actually had happen, you can play through the whole thing in an hour, and it doesn't feel like you're getting bogged down into it. You know what I mean? You can get more and more game out of it. So it's really definitely one of my favorites.
Nice. And wait till you have to, you're talking about decisions, wait till you start missing or you have HE loaded and you're facing a tank and you're like, damn it. All I'm going to do is piss him off.
Right.
So I got to reload AP. And then you have to decide, do I back up? Do I move forward? Do I go hold down? Do not always, when you get a chance, it's worth, to me, it's worth one of the commands to go hold down. Because
That's what I did.
you want to make sure you do that. Yeah.
Now, here's the question, though, because I didn't understand exactly how this would work. And I made a ruling on it where I would adjust it for myself. But I had a situation pop up where I had an AT gun at B and infantry at A. And it was a defend mission, so the infantry were supposed to move up, but AT guns don't move. So if the infantry try to close the range, but the AT gun's not closing the range and I'm backing up, well, the infantry is technically following me. So in that circumstance, you can have a situation where technically the infantry could be at close range while the AT gun was supposed to be at long range. So I made a ruling on that where I would put a marker next to the AT gun to signify the fact that if I fire at it or it fires at me, this is going to count at long range, but the infantry can fire at short range.
Or you just give him a -1 that he's targeted you already. So you give him the -1 that you get when you shoot at them. That'd be another way too. So you could drop their negative, you can give them a -1 die modifier to try to assist them trying to get you if you want to get hit, or get a greater chance of getting hit.
For the infantry, not for the AT gun, you mean?
For the AT gun.
No, because the AT gun should be firing at long range, not close range. So they should be getting a penalty, not a bonus.
Yeah, but being that they've shot at you already and you want to try to make it somewhat easier, it's like being that you've moved, they know where you're at. They're not trying to seek you out anymore. You can give them a -1, which will knock down that long range penalty a little bit if you wanted to. But depends. I mean, how much you want to house rule.
I think we're on separate pages because, all right, like long range, you need to have a 2d6 roll of 2 to 5 to hit, right? But at close range, you need 2 to 7. It adjusts. Well, the thing is that's what I was saying. The infantry were moving up, but the AT gun doesn't move.
He can't move,
Exactly. Yeah. You have a situation where some of the enemy forces are supposed to be closing the range and some of the enemy forces are staying where they're at. So which range do you go with? Do you leave the range where it's at, or do you close the range and give the...
You'd have to leave it where it was,
give the bonus to the AT. That's... kind of what you got a house rule. I don't think that got play tested quite enough to adjust for situations that could arise. Yeah. It's only very specifically defense missions with AT guns. If you don't have that happen, it's not really an issue.
Well, you should post that question to Greg and let him answer it.
Yeah.
See if it may get put into the errata.
Greg, you here? Is he here tonight?
No, he's not here.
What the hell's he doing? What could be more important?
So John is going to make the long trek from the Philippines to Compass Games Expo. Awesome.
That's pretty impressive.
I thought that already
Are you going to go, Kev? No, that's next month.
I don't think so. I don't think I can do any travel.
Okay.
It's getting complicated here with houses and construction and work and stuff.
Yeah. ATA is definitely worth playing. I think you'll enjoy it, John.
Yeah, it's worth getting. Absolutely.
He's Fango guy. What I was saying, you use the long range, but you add the -1 that they've already seen you. Just like when you shoot.
I get what you're saying now. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. You didn't say the long range part, or I missed that. I thought you were saying
you
give it
can
the
leave
same
the long
range.
range.
And then,
you just give them the long range. But then if you wanted to make it more difficult on yourself, that being that you've been seen, they know where you're at, you're bracketed, you can just give them a -1, just like you get if you fire for the second time on the tank. You're just fire and adjust. You give the -1, which adds, takes away, so you can have a greater chance of getting that die roll you need. So if you wanted to, you can do that. But
that makes
you just
sense.
play around with it.
I'll tell you what, though, the game is a huge difference when you start a little later, because I was like, no, I'm not starting with the M4. I hate the M4. So I went with the 76. Well, I don't like that 75 mil gun. I like the 76 mil gun with the extra penetration. And that really does make a huge difference in the game, because so many of the enemy forces that you're going to fight, you wouldn't be able to penetrate them with the 75 mil, but you can with the 76 mil.
Right.
And it's only 1 month later that starts the campaign. Instead of June, you go to July, and starts off so much easier.
Yeah. It is cool, but I think the other thing that's neat about it is you get to experience how terrible tanks are in the bocage, how hard it is for tanks in a bocage. Now you look at it from both aspects. If you're infantry, you hate hearing the clank of the treads, and you're hearing those sprockets just crunching on the road wheels. You're like, holy shit, here comes a tank. If you're the tank going in there, you're like, holy shit, where the hell is the freaking Panzerfaust going to be?
Right.
You know, you're just like, you're expecting it around every corner. So it's a very even fight in that regard, because the tank has the greatest advantage for the tank outside of the armor, obviously, is the gun, is the reach. So you've closed that now. You've got the infantry on top of them. They've got tank stopping, weapons that they can use on the tanks. So it's a lot more interesting in that regard. And then, of course, if you're unbuttoned, you have your guys up there, you leave them unbuttoned. One of them get wounded, they can get forced down and be buttoned, and that makes it more difficult to hit. So there's a lot of that's what I liked about it. He simplified tank combat, but still allowed the complexity of tank combat in an easy way.
Right.
The
tactics of it.
The tactics of it, yes. Yeah. That's why always go hold down if you get the chance. Always go hold down. It will save you.
Well, if anyone hasn't played it yet, you like it, you're interested in that type, it is absolutely 100% worth getting. It's definitely one of my top favorites now in the solitary games. Like I said, easy to play. The rules aren't difficult. I know we're talking about a little bit of finagling with the rules, but it's very specific circumstances. For the most part, the game just flows freely. You can pop from match to match to match. Like I said, if I just sat there and played it without worrying about filming and lighting and shit like that, I could get 4, 5, 6 missions done in an evening, easy, 2-3 hours. It doesn't take long at all to blast through them.
So what you're saying is filming a playthrough is not as easy as everybody thinks. That says, why don't you just film a playthrough and put it on YouTube?
Yeah.
It'll only take you a half hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Setting up shots, getting the lighting, getting the audio, and then, downloading it to your computer and then editing it. And it's like 6, 7, 8 hours later, you got a 30-minute video up.
Those who can't critique.
Yes, that's true.
Fun.
But while I'm at it, though, the other thing that I'm going to be putting up soon is I tried one that I've always wanted to try, never got a chance to, and that is Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2. So,
PC game?
What, Kevin?
The PC game?
Yeah. So I've never got a chance to try it. They were nice enough to send me a code for it, and I decided to do a blind playthrough of it. Didn't read the rules, didn't do anything. I was like, I'm just going to sit with it and see how much of my understanding of war games can translate over to this. And it's almost nil. I mean, there's so much going on with that thing. And I did the introductory scenario, and that game is massive. Like the scenario is just this tiny little bit of the map, and I scroll out and it's just covering thousands of hexes. I mean, that game is massive in everything that it's got going on. Now, in the first turn, I tried to attack a couple of times and just got ruffle stomped. So I have no clue what the hell I'm doing wrong. But it's like, it shows the stats on how many men you're losing. And I lost something like 8,000 and they lost like 400. So whatever I'm doing isn't working very well. But it's a fun game. It's huge, massive, covers everything. You have to worry about supplies, logistics. The thing that I like is that it can automate certain tasks for you, like Air Force. Right. So the introductory scenario is set that way to where the air reinforcement supply, reconnaissance is all being automated.
Nice.
Hello, puppy. But yes, I haven't put that one up yet. I will have that up in a couple of days when I finish the editing on it. But I'm going to do a couple of playthrough series and just kind of learn how I go and let people comment on it and just see how
it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle game.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's not small by any means.
Yeah,
it's like Command Modern Operations.
Right, exactly.
Isn't that the one that has like the 3D graphics down in the corner as you're doing like combat?
No, that's all 2D. That's all just basically, it's like looking at it from it's like Harpoon in a way. Yeah, you're looking at it from that ray trace type screen and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I actually was touching on that when I was talking about Slytherin's Twitch event. I think they got an update coming out for that game as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what about you, Kev? What have you been up to?
Well, I think when did we last talk? Well, it was a month ago, right?
About a month, yeah.
Let's see. So I finished up that North Africa campaign with SCS. I was playing that on basketball with a buddy of mine. We've been at that for like 4 months or 6 months or something like that. So that was awesome fun. Pretty historical, although Rommel had taken Tobruk, but he wasn't going anywhere. And I didn't have the capacity to make him go anywhere. So we kind of agreed that the last 4 turns or 5 turns that were left, nothing was really going to change because I said I wasn't attacking and he said he wasn't going to attack. So we were like, yeah, you bleed yourself dry. No, you go ahead. But that was awesome. I think that's probably I would say it's number 1 and number 2 North Africa game at the moment anyway. It's really, really cool game.
Nice.
And then I played another MMP game. I did a solo thing of Screaming Eagles in Holland with the TCS system. Just did a little scenario of that. That was cool. And I'm just looking here. I'm just looking at some of the pictures I posted, trying to work out what games they are. Most Fearful Sacrifice. I got a scenario of that done. And that was obviously excellent, which immediately led me to go and buy that new. Oh no, I can't remember the name of it. I can't see it from here either. The latest Lutman game.
Volters or the
no
in that big giant Gettysburg game?
Champions Hill, I think it's called.
Oh, Champions Hill. Okay.
Yeah, I just played that and got a lock and load scenario in. Got 2 of the Long Road in. I played 2 of those. That's been cool. And I played, I think, one other game. What did I do? The old GDW Alma, the Battle of Alma, at Sevastopol with the Crimean War. That was kind of really sucky. That was everything you expected and less. And I just did a Day of Heroes. I think I mentioned that. And I've got Time for Trumpet set up, which is probably going to be a really short play, I think. That's not going to go very far. It's a small scenario, but I'm already frustrated with it.
I was going to say, how are you going to make that a short play other than just quitting early?
Yeah, no, I'm just doing the Baston scenario, and it's I don't know. I'm not a big fan of point-based rules. It just means you've got to memorize everything, whereas, I like that kind of situation where you explain what's going on and then you list exceptions, right? This is do A, do B, do C, but don't do E, don't do F. And by the way, when you're doing at point B, when you're doing A, don't forget that really meant this. And just tons of that sort of stuff and lots of extraneous words that mean nothing. Like I say, you got to advance. If you want to advance, you have to advance when you finish combat, which is obvious, right? And it's fine to have those words there. But then the next point is, and if you move anything else or roll another die, you cannot move, you cannot advance.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a 60-step combat process, which is all very straightforward when you actually get down to it. Do the odds, do the DRMs, do the column shifts, but it's just look at 4 different pieces of paper to work it out. So anyway, we'll see. I'm not super
sounds
into
almost,
that, as you can probably tell.
How would you compare it? That sounds similar in a way to Next War, how Next War runs. But the thing about Next War is you get the DRM thing where you keep track of your modifiers as you're doing them, which I think is really cool because you got a lot of them. So you can keep track as you're doing it. And then there are some instances where you go, I know what this is going to be. You don't need that, but it's a nice thing to have that. So would you say it's similar as far as following the procedures?
Well, I think it's more, I think it's the Bitterwood system with just a massive amount of chrome wrapped around it and every piece of nuanced history that Bruno had. And I've played it with Bruno in a group and it was fantastic because you had him guiding you, right?
Yeah, makes it easier.
Yeah. But, when you're sitting there trying to go from A to Z on a turn, it's a little
tedious.
Well, it gets a little bit, the check, and especially, first few turns you're doing. Sure. It's all muscle memory and stuff like that. But, so I've done 4 or 5 combats now, and the combat's, straightforward once you know what's going on. But
getting to that point.
Getting to that, and then you're still looking at 3 or 4 different bits. So I think the next war feels to me a lot cleaner because all the mods and stuff are on one page, and whereas this stuff is kind of spread across at least 2 pages.
Oh wow!
So
and you got to hunt for them too. It sounds like
there's a bit of hunting.
Well, how many modifiers could they really have? You got modifier for terrain, weather, maybe a couple other things. Artillery.
Okay. Yeah. If you're an AFV in fog, you get a modifier. If you're infantry fighting against AFVs, you get a modifier. If you're infantry and armor fighting against infantry, you get a modifier. If you're infantry
and you're cold and it's foggy and it's snowing,
and then if it's woods and if it's this, and then there's is it a tiger attack?
Is this all cumulative?
Yeah, because you got to go through all them all, right?
That sounds like a huge pain in the ass because you'd need like a couple of 20-side die to keep figuring out for each side and then compare your number to get like a final total for the modifier.
No. In fairness, you can look at it. If I was going to reorganize that table, I'd put all the things that happen most often at the top, and then all these sort of edge things that don't turn up very often, I put them all at the bottom, right? And so that I do all the DRMs on one chart and all the column shifts on another chart. So I'm just trying to get that bug. and then I would keep those 2 things separate versus blending them all together and then having a separate something for, I think there's a separate table for, what am I trying to say, for terrain as well. So it's a little convoluted, I get. So it's not really that deadly because you roll 2 dice.
Fiddly, not deadly.
Oh, fiddly, and it's not super deadly either. You're rolling 2 dice with on the same odds table using the same net DRM, but you roll 2 dice, and 1 die is for the attacker, and you look at that result on the left for the attacker, and then the second result, just kind of like in Vietnam, and the second result is the die roll for the defender, and that result can apply to the defender, but sometimes it can also apply to the attacker as well. Well, that's another game I played. I played a scenario of Vietnam. I played 2 scenarios.
Vietnam, yeah, that's right. You were playing that one.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of that could be just left out, like infantry fighting in fog or whatever the rare one.
Yeah,
you probably don't even need to put the modifier in there. Just leave it as part of the weather rolls and be done with it.
Right. And I think I know exactly what Bruno was trying to do. It's supposed to be his ultimate expression of the bulge, and I bet in team play it's awesome because you have a couple of guys who know everything, and it'll go super slick, and it'll be awesome. But solo, even just with, I've got maybe 100 counters on the map, and then you look at there's units on the map that are only there for a couple of turns and they're not allowed to attack. They just kind of sit there and bog up the traffic. And so you look at what the Germans were trying to do, and they really didn't have a chance, snowball's chance in hell of taking that stuff. So based on what I'm seeing anyway. Two turns in.
Sounds like play 2 turns of that, and you're like, yep, putting this away, pulling out cells.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Or even RDM 44, I guess, which is the highest now. And, Iron Tide in the Ardennes, and that's another great game. That's a cool game. That's pretty fiddly too, though, just the roads and things. But anyway.
Well, I mean, I like that. With the thing I really like about that is I'm a big fan of variable combat. I'm really a big fan of that. I like chit pull and variable combat because then you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what your units are going to be. And I always say about having the human factory in there. And that's one of the easiest ways of doing that is having variable chits, basically where you say, well, these guys are going to fight this. Wow, they're really strong this turn. Well, next turn they suck. Right. Maybe they're fatigued. Maybe they're low on ammo, whatever. You can excuse that any way you want. Or, if these guys fought really well, wow, I'm surprised they fought really well. Maybe they're pissed off at getting beat up on. So or they're desperate and they're in fear. So they fight, more tenacious. I like that idea. And it always keeps you guessing.
Yeah. Well, and Time for Trumpets comes down to artillery, right? So, it's how much arty can you get on a defensive or offensive action to mess up the odds for the other guy so that they have winning chance or a worse chance of being successful. And then on top of all that is fatigue and supply and command and disruptions and mud and snow squalls and frozen ground and sort of muddy ground and all this stuff. You're like,
that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you're really into the bulge, I think that would be awesome because you're vested into that. So that sounds like it would be really interesting, but still a bear to do solo.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like the opening, the 16th of the first turn, 16, 17, 18, he's got all this fantastic historical stuff about, these guys went this way, but they could have gone that way, roll a die. And these guys kind of almost ran into each other, but they didn't, roll a die. And don't move these guys until this time. But then when you do move them, don't move them further than this. And so there's like, if you want true granular historical fidelity, that's your Huckleberry. But if you don't, then I would play, and you want the big monster game, I'd play Vlak am Rhein or the Last Blitzkrieg from MMP, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Didn't the game, what's it called? The Atlantic Wall, isn't that the same system?
There's Vlak am Rhein, yeah.
Yeah.
But not for A Time for Trumpets, because it's a unique
the Atlantic Wall, and then what's the something forest? You mentioned that one?
Hurtgen Forest.
Hurtgen Forest.
Yeah.
Oh, you're thinking of those decision game stuff, the GOS system, right?
Yeah, GOS.
Is that what I'm thinking
I was thinking of the older SBI Vlak am Rhein.
Well, I remember I set out the Atlantic Wall one time just to see all the
Did you
maps.
really?
Dude, I didn't even have a table. I had to put it out on the floor. There was no other place I could. It almost filled
It's
my
huge.
entire spare room. Oh, it's
It's
gorgeous,
huge.
all laid
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when are you going to play that?
Yeah. I saw two
when
guys
I
play the
retire.
Con once. Yeah.
You won't.
Kids move out, I can take over the entire house.
But are you going to have the time to sit down and play something that big?
Yeah.
That's like saying, yeah, I'm going to get Streets of Stalingrad because I'm going to play that solitaire one day. Good luck. Maybe the new one, but not the previous version.
The one I've always wanted, probably not even to play, just to say I've got it, is that the biggest one, the sea one, the Pacific one. Help me out.
War in the Pacific.
War in the Pacific.
War in the
that's the name.
Pacific?
Yeah. Isn't there something like 12,000 counters in that damn thing?
I can grab the box and you can have a look at it.
Yeah.
But and it's not. It's people are giving that game a hard time. Guys who are actually trying to play it, and it's a challenge. I played the midway scenario for it. It's really interesting, but I don't. The Pacific is so hard. I think because there's so little really hard data on how effective was an airplane against a ship, right, or a group of airplanes, because those events didn't happen very often. In the totality of the war, there weren't a whole lot of ships sunk by airplanes, and that's not a great statistical set to try and create a CRT on. How many ships were sunk by airplanes? I don't know, 100? Less? More?
Yeah, that's crazy. And we've talked about this before. Pacific is very difficult to do operational. It has to be just strategic or tactical. Because if you're going to do tactical, you just drill down into one island and you work that. And it's got to be a good sized map too. I mean, some of these maps for, and these islands are small, but still, some of these maps you look, it's like it's 4 hexes to the other side. It's like that's not really enough. You need double that minimum, so that way you're tactical. You can actually dig into it more tactically. Otherwise, it's just whack-a-mole, which it generally was. The island hopping campaign was that, but I think for a campaign, for a Pacific game, a tactical game, I would like to see someone come up with a solitaire system that covers these games, kind of like Butterfield did with D-Day but from the Japanese perspective, where you're getting assaulted. I think that would be a little different. Again, you're going to be static defense, but the whole game would be how are you going to build up your defenses, and how are you going to commit when you're going to fall back, but you're not really going to fall back. Japanese died in place for the most part. That was their orders. But still, I think it would be interesting to look at it from that perspective because all we ever see is from the U.S. perspective, just assaulting. Right. I think it would be neat to see it from a defensive perspective.
The best perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've got that doctrinal issue too, right? Where you've got
Yes.
the Japanese style of fighting that's
Take 10 with you before you go.
yeah.
You know?
So I know, I guess the question would be, would that be interesting / fun? And then does it make for a good game? And can you make a solo AI for
That would be the hard part.
the USMC to do its thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do it.
That would be the difficult thing. But it would be difficult. It would be hard, because remember what John did with the fire dots, which is a really great way of doing it with cards and fire dots for where the concentration of fire is based on the movement across the islands. And I think that was really neat. But what would you do could you translate that in an offensive way, not just defensive? I think defensive is easier because it's static, whereas offense, they're moving. So that makes it more difficult to do. But I just think that one of the things I've always been fascinated about with war games is playing both sides, because you look at it from both perspectives. Now with the island hopping stuff, the Pacific campaigns, it's, if you're the Japanese, you really do nothing. For the Japanese on your turn, you just, okay, yeah, are they suppressed or not? Okay, take the suppression marker off. All right, we're moving on. Now let's go with the Marines and you attack. I would like to see something that concentrated on the defense and getting building that stuff up ahead of time and stuff like that.
Well, defense is kind of an easier thing to model because all you have to worry about is digging your entrenchments and trying to hold. I mean, that's your strategy. Whatever it is, you're building your fortifications, your bunkers, whatever your defensive line is going to be, and then you hope they die out before they bust through.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the strategy.
The spin-off of that kind of ties into the game that we both have released videos on that's now on Kickstarter, that Freezing Inferno. Mm-hmm. That one is taking on, now that's a game it's trying to be a crossover appeal. Yeah. It's trying for crossover appeal for hobby gamers that are curious about war games. So it's a lower complexity game. They said moderate. I'd say it's low. It's not really, it's not the simplest war game I've played, but it's fairly low complexity, low to medium. So the rules are not a hard thing to get. And aside from the map itself, we're going to leave all the aesthetics out. The gameplay is very simple. Wait.
I actually like the gaudy map. All right. But I'm also the guy that liked the map in Absolute Victory. So take that with a grain of salt.
Wow.
Your aesthetic choices are shit. So we're going to continue on with me being right, you being wrong, as usual. No. Anyway.
For me, it reminded me of Advanced Wars from like the Super Nintendo days. I don't know. For some reason, it just struck a happy chord for me.
Looked more like Mario to me, but, hey.
It did have that look.
Yeah, I mean, just leaving that aside, I'm just talking about gameplay itself. Where it's going to attract, where it can attract the non-war gamer, the hobby gamer, casual war gamer, or whatever, is the fact there's no OOBs. You're basically just setting up as you want. So it's almost like a traditional hobby game in that way. Here's your win conditions, regardless. That's always going to be the win conditions. You stop them from taking 2 or 3 of your cities. If you're Finland, you take 3 of theirs. By the end of turn 8, you win. For the Russians, they've got to take 2, and they have to only give up 2 at most. And they win by the end of turn 8. So that's easy. Setting up is where the game gets interesting for both sides, and that's why they've got those sheets. But I'm not a giant fan of the sheets myself. I think they're a little too small. But my point is, I think it's going to be difficult for a casual war gamer to play Finland, because they have to understand defense in depth and just delaying actions. I'm going to run up there. I'm probably going to lose this guy, but I'm going to back him up. I'm going to give up that hex. You're going to trit me, but I'm going to trit you too and slow you down. And that's the whole point. You're just delaying till the end of turn 8. And I think,
hold up, to interject there, I think a better strategy is really in that game, you don't worry about defending the map. You worry about defending 2/3 of the map.
The cities. Yeah.
Well, pick one city and just give it up. Don't even worry about putting forces down there. Maybe 1 or 2 just to delay, but then concentrate the bulk on 2 of them to hold them off at all cost. Because it doesn't matter if they capture the 1 as long as they don't get 2. You know what I'm saying? And then put everything in that way. That way you're not having to focus on half the map. You cut down 1/3 of it right off the bat that you don't even have to worry about.
Yeah, you can do that. But the thing is, you also want to position all your forces out there. Number one, you want to thin them out and have like speed bumps to slow things down so you can develop everything. And then that way you can try to, you don't want to just say, hey, I'm blocking these 2 cities off regardless. And you're letting them know where your main defensive effort is, because then you're letting everybody know, oh, you've got 8 turns to punch through on the just 1 city on when you're defending that. So you want to kind of make them make a choice, but you want to guide that choice if you can by the way you have your forces laid out. You don't want to make it too obvious. Like you're saying, just defend 2 cities.
Right.
You give up the 1 city, they're halfway to victory. So you want to make sure you spread things out, and then at the same time you can get a counter thrust, maybe take one of their cities, make them pull back some forces as well.
So I guess it depends, like if you're looking to get people excited about gaming, in historical gaming, it's probably a great title for folks to explore, but it's an odd topic to pick, right? So you're taking a very small hobby and then taking a very small topic out of military history and then trying to make it something that's low complexity and interesting. So it's kind of a curious approach. I hope it does well, but
well, it's a real true David and Goliath story too, because
sure,
they were so dwarfed, but they were so tough. I mean, they really embarrassed the Soviets.
Did he consider your idea of the blocks instead, or is that just
no? They're going to go with.
I think that would work well.
I think blocks would have worked better. But the whole thing, I'm not a fan of, I get what they're going for, but I don't like the stacks because it just clutters up the board. And I think especially for when it comes to a hobby gamer, they're going to understand the concept. That's not the problem. Where they might get a little intimidated is fact these stacks. They're like, oh, there's so many things out there I got to pay attention to. No, each of those hexes is 1 unit.
Yeah,
it's just the strength of it. But from looking at it, they can be a little turned off. Whereas a wargamer looks at it and goes, oh yeah, lots of stacks, cool. What are the combined units? Oh, there's not combined units, just 1 unit per hex. That's kind of lame. So it's one of those things where it can be a turnoff to both sides in that regard. And I don't know if they thought of that ahead of time as well, which is kind of a shame. And the other thing, like to Kev's point, is the Winter War is a very difficult one because there's not a lot of them out there, number one. Number two, there's not a lot of knowledge and understanding of that here in the United States, which is a prime audience here for buying your war games. And even in Europe, I'm not sure how much they know of the Winter War. And when you look at the terrain, it's a difficult island, or not island, but a difficult country to fight in. Kevin and I had talked about this, about marshland, just ton of marshland, and then the lakes and a billion lakes and all the forest and everything.
Forest, there's no open terrain that I'm aware of.
Not a lot
at all, really, and unless it's a frozen lake, and then it's also that Suomi, that marshland, that frozen marshland, which is broken terrain. It's
the map represents that.
Stuff.
Yeah, it does, but it doesn't get the marshes. No, it doesn't get the marshes. Yeah,
it really does. If you look, like the whole map is just channels through forests, lakes, frozen lakes, whatever. Depending on the weather that you have, but it represents exactly what you're talking about.
So is every hex that has some trees in it a forest hex, or is that a partially clear hex, or is it a clear hex?
No, it's a
clear hexes.
There's no like partially forested hex. It's either forest, clear, frozen lake, and I think that's it. Or mountain. Is there a mountain in that?
No,
yes, there are up north.
Up north. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes, I would figure the Finns would know about it because it should be a pretty storied piece of their history. Well,
I think they're trying to push the minis, not the counters per se.
Yeah, and that's something that is a disappointment to me, the way they're handling that in the Kickstarter. I had thought they were going to actually offer miniatures. They're offering STL files. They have to remember not everybody has. No, they're offering STLs, and it's like not everybody has 3D printers. They're not that widely.
Really?
They're not as wide as they may think. So what they should do, if they're going to go that route, is they should offer I'm going to start charging them consulting fees for this. If they want to do the STL things, fine. The files, they should also hook up with somebody that can print them out for a fee. And that way, if you want the miniatures, here's our partner.
It's too costly to produce them that way. the resin that's used in those type of printers, because you can never do it on an FDM printer, right? The cheaper PLA plastic, it wouldn't work for minis of that size. So you have to use the resin, which is ungodly fragile compared to regular miniatures.
Very.
So the amount that you would have to print, there's going to be some with defects, right? So those are just scratched right off the bat. And then the ones that get broken, dropped, cracked in shipping, that would have to be replaced. And the cost of that resin, even if they were getting it in bulk, would be cost ineffective for a game like this. So give the people the files is the absolute best choice. If they combined with someone, it would cost them a lot of money to try to
why
print those out.
why do it, right? Why do it? Why not use blocks? Right?
Yes.
Some great graphics on it then. That to me sounds like now you're, unfortunately, what happened to the chap that was trying to do that innovative game with the minis that had the funky shaped hexes of two different sizes? What was it called?
Iron Thunder.
Iron Thunder. Yes. Yeah.
So I don't think that is that thing's.
He did it.
He made his number.
I don't know if he made his number or not.
Right. Okay.
No,
so
it's not going to fund. Yeah.
Right. I didn't think so. Right. So Chiswick Games is what.
Chiswick. Yeah.
Yeah. So he made a commitment. He's either all in at the right scale as well with those minis versus you're doing this hex encounter. What is it? 5 kilometers a hex or whatever, and it's a hex encounter game. But you hit some files that you can go print some minis for. That just sounds kind of goofy to me.
Yeah,
like off.
It's too much. There's too much to print because you'd have to print it for both sides, use 2 different colors, or paint them, and it's more work than I would do. I've had some board games that had a handful of STL files, but I had to print 5 minis. Okay, cool. That's no problem.
Yeah.
But if I have to print 100, that's expensive. That resin is actually relatively costly. It's about $30, I think, a bottle. And you would need at least for those, probably 2 bottles to print all of them, just guesstimating depending on the size of the minis. So you got to think the cost alone, you're at minimum adding $50 to the cost.
Yeah.
So no, that's too much. I won't do that.
Yeah, I mean, he sent me a message the other day or something asking me to offer some opinions and do something. And I said, I really don't have very much to say. I told Mo everything that I thought.
Yeah.
Did you fix the map? And I never heard back from him. So
yeah. Well, I mean, the map was number 1, and the map is better than it was. It's not exactly 100% where I'd like it to be, but it was better than it was. But gameplay wise itself, for what it's shooting for that audience, it's not bad.
Right.
For war gamers that, your standard war gamer, it's going to be something that you get if you want to play with your friend who's not a war gamer or your kid.
Sure.
It's not super challenging to play. Right. And if you like sandbox setups, you might like it. But without the historicity there of the OOBs and the units and the cohesiveness there, it's just like,
It's trying to be too many different things to too many different people, too many different audiences, and it's not focused on either being a really cool abstract game with a nice theme that's light and easy and approachable, and it's priced right. Instead, it's trying to do minis, and it's doing this, and it's got the goofy art, and it's got the war gamey feel, but it's not. It's none of those things. Whereas if you want to play a war game about that war, go get old GMT's Arctic Storm, right? Kind of horrid map art, but fantastic game, highly underrated. Or you go buy Red Winter if you
Red Winter is the one, if that one ever comes out.
Great tactical level, dealing with one of the biggest issues around that lake. I forget what it's called now, but what starts with a T, whatever, that thing. Or you go hog deep and do Frozen Hell from TCS, which is also a very, very good game with some modification.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this. And one, Tim, yes, it is. The game itself, they have sent that prototype copy around to everybody. Now, he's done what I think publishers should do, and that's to reach out to a whole lot of people, right? Get the word out there. But I'm almost wondering if he got the word too much out there, right? Because, he already told me, he's like, I'll send you a a copy when it gets produced. And I know that's going to cost him a little bit. And he's sent it around to every reviewer that I know and some that I don't know. I'm almost wondering if he went too big as far as passing it around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no such thing as bad advertising, right? I don't know.
Oh, they've advertised.
I think it's
spammed
fine.
every war game group out there.
He hit the ground running and he got it out and everyone heard about it.
There's a limit though, but there's a limit.
That's
After
what I'm
a while,
wondering.
you can actually
Diminishing
turn people off. Well, not just diminishing returns. At some point, you hit the ground running. You got to avoid the wall, because if you keep going like that, you're going to annoy people to the point where, like, dude, I was kind of interested in your game before, but now this is the 9th time today I've seen the ad for a game. Now I don't care about your game. So that's the other thing too. You don't want to piss people off either. So
you don't want to become Raid Shadow Legends.
No.
Yeah. Where you hear
well, look at the flip side with the Most Fearful Sacrifice or Magnificent Sacrifice. I never get the name of that damn game right.
AMFS.
Their second edition. There are still people asking questions about the second edition or will there be a second edition or a second printing, and they don't know what's going on, right? I see poor old Herman still answering the same question wherever they put that ad or that post. And I feel sorry for him because he's having to do all the answering.
People are like, why are you coming out with a second edition right now? It's like, to correct any errata and to reprint all of the the player aids, things like that were not printed right the first time, and for a chance for the people who did not get the first edition that sold out very fast. Here's your chance to get it with all the corrected stuff. Yeah. But I got the first edition. I'm getting ripped off. No, you're not. You can download the PDF and you can print them out yourself, or you can throw down $20 and you can get it all printed and sent to you.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah. And they just seem to have missed the communication mark there, right?
And these are the people that bitch about rules.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Kev,
they don't bother to read the Kickstarter.
As a FYI, you remember that game that you mentioned on Facebook a handful of days ago, the 1943 to 45, When the Americans Come?
Oh, the one you were talking about.
Yeah, I made a video on it, but I saw it on Kev's Facebook page. I could have sworn.
Oh, you did a video on that?
Yeah, I did a video on it. And I wanted to help kind of get the word out there a little bit, because the designer, like, one of the things I pointed out was he did the opposite of what Freezing Inferno did. He hadn't reached out to like anyone, right? No videos done. And I think after talking to him, because he actually reached out and emailed me, and he really appreciated the video and helping him get the word out. He's a smaller publisher, just trying out, hitting the ground running out of Italy. And he actually is saying that he's going to try to work with me. And I told him I will make videos for him. Let me know next time if you catch me ahead. I'll work with you and I'll get you a video. That way, when you do your Kickstarter, you're not going to be just empty.
Right. Have some content.
Yeah. So I told him he was free to link to what I've already used, but I don't have anything to actually send. I think he's at that point now where he's like so small and he's just starting out, working out of his garage. One of the things that I chuckled about was that it actually says on the Kickstarter that if you're in X and X location, you can actually come pick it up from my house, not have to pay shipping.
That's awesome.
I loved it. I was like, no, that's a publisher right there. He's like, come on by, have a beer, pick up your game. We're good to go. But
that's great.
I wanted to say
Garage Kit Games.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have known about the game had I not seen it from Kev. So he appreciates the extra coverage, and it does look like he's going to fund. So he should be good.
Oh, cool. Well, cool. Well, yeah. Well, so I need to go check it out then. I will. So you enjoyed it then, I guess.
Well, it's a nice looking game. I like the map. I think the map for it's very nice. Although you guys should check it out. It would actually behoove you. You would like this map. It's not the other.
I was going to say, if you like the map, that doesn't say much.
It's not like that. But I like
you probably voted for U-Boat war game map.
Does it have nice colored dice?
It's got the blocks, right? It's got the blocks, and you have to worry about upgrading your forces, right? Your blocks represent basic forces, and then you can turn them into tanks or aircraft, and you get bonuses for having combined arms, and it's in the Northern Africa, Sicily area type stuff. but
Nice.
it's only $30, right? So for a game that has a nice mounted map, wooden blocks, dice, cards, and all that stuff for $30, and I mean, it's not complex or chromy by any means,
Yeah.
but there's plenty of space for smaller beer and pretzels type games, and it looks nice. I think it's going to be enjoyable when it releases. So yeah, you guys
That
check it
sounds
out.
good.
1943 to 1945, When the Americans Come. It's on Kickstarter now.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more involved than Freezing Inferno, which doesn't have those items in there.
No. Well, Freezing Inferno has its own stuff.
It does. I mean, I'm not knocking the game. I'm just saying that, I liked it for what because I put myself in the frame of mind of the audience who it's intended for, which is the lower complexity games, the war gamers who want a sandbox that are not really concerned about historicity, and, hobby gamers that they're trying to attract. And for that, it would be good. But although I will still say that it's still going to be difficult to attract hobby gamers, because I know there's this big push, this big mindset of we need to attract them. We don't need to attract them. They need to be attracted to war games, because you can try to pull them over all you want. All they're going to do is come over kicking and screaming and saying, it's not a Euro, I don't want to play it. It's not a hobby game, I don't want to play it. Most of them don't want to play war games. It's just not their interest.
Yeah, you either have an interest in military history or an interest in history that has kinetic action in it.
Yes.
Or you don't. And if you don't, that's okay. Don't play. Mm-hmm. There's enough of us, despite what everybody says. I've been saying it since 1970 that the hobby's dead. Well, newsflash, it's not. No. So, and look at all the people that are making games. You're right. I forgot, Gimpy. This game's €29.
Exactly.
Wow. And it's got a beautiful map.
Hey, Mo, pay attention. Say that again.
I'm not a huge. No, sorry. It's an okay map, and it's not, and it's point to point, right? So it's not my favorite, but it's a classy point to point, right? It's not one of those horror GMT style things with the bright orange squares slapped across a beautiful map, right? It's a really nice looking game, and it's a classic block thing where you roll a 5 or a 6 to kick a step, right?
Yeah, so, and you got the victory point locations that you go for. Every location isn't key, just the ones with the stars or the victory point areas.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
It's a great comment.
I'm using a different camera, trying something different. And now it's lagging on me.
He's trying to be like Dan Pancaldi with the green screen behind him.
Yes, I put up the green screen. Well, my neighbors complained because the light was so bright, so I put that up too to help kind of block.
Are you kidding me? Tell your neighbors to mind.
Tell them to pull down the shutters or whatever.
They've got a newborn baby, and their house is right there behind me, so I kind of understand how they didn't want to have a whole lot of light, studio lights right back here.
They can't afford shades.
Apparently not.
No, they got shades up. Look, you guys know how it is when a woman gives birth and she's right after and she's had the baby. She's a little touchy. I understand. My wife was the same way, so I don't mind trying to accommodate the neighbors a little bit to keep them happy. I have to live next to these people. I got to be polite, especially since I almost killed them one time when I shot at them. Accidentally went their yard.
Shot at him and you didn't hit him? You're not.
I was using a bow and arrow, and the arrow hit the top of my target and flung over the fence and landed point down in their yard. And they had just gone inside. I had to send him a message saying, "I'm very sorry, but can I have my arrow back? And I promise it'll never go back there again."
You're like a 4-year-old with a toy. You're an idiot.
Yeah. They laughed about it, though, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, it's a laugh about it because no one was back there that could have got hit by it. But
that would have killed someone, so I felt very bad.
Yeah. So the news on Corson Pocket 2.
I do not know anything, Mo.
Yeah, I have some news. Do you have news?
Well, no, that was the news that I think you're going to share too. Is that it's ready to go?
Yeah. So I think he's sick again, but I believe that, and I think we're waiting. I think Jack Rady is waiting to make some formal announcement until the money has actually been sent to China to do the print run. but apparently it's close that they're going to actually be printing the games pretty soon. So that's what I heard. It's not verified from Tibbets, but I know there's been lots of drama around him. A, B, and C, and B. Folks have issues from way back in the day, which I know nothing about, but it'll be a good game when it's all done.
Kind of tempted, but not tempted enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big game, and it's kind of a, it's not really that expensive for what you get.
There's a lot there, and it's a small run, so it's like Fabrizio's games and stuff. So take that into account. It all comes down to what you're willing to spend, and if it fits what you
interested in it, right? I think,
So I'm curious, what was this one that Jeff was talking about here? He's saying he asked me to look at it too. I had to watch my unboxing and Gim's review. I'm not sure which game he's talking about there. Is it Freezing Inferno?
I think that's the Freezing Inferno thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Freezing Inferno is what he's talking about.
Okay.
None of the small guys will approach me because they know there's a better than 50-50 chance that I won't like it.
Because you're a notorious
asshole.
Notorious AAS or ASF.
I think that's going to be fun to play. I like the
I think it's going to be fun to play, but with the right mindset.
You gotta go into these things. It's like that Battle of the Alma that I played, the GDW thing. I thought it was a terrible game, but for when it was made and all the rest of it, it was okay. But you got to put it all into context. And I have much higher standards, like with the Time for Trumpets. I have much higher standards and expectations of that than I do of some other monster that came out 40 years ago that, we just didn't know stuff back then, and we didn't have the ideas we have. So,
well, that's the thing too, is when people are talking about all of these, wanting to bring over people into war games, and war games, like any other industry, like any other hobby, is always in flux. I think there is going to be more of a lean towards faster playing games than there are longer playing games, the chromed out ones, although the chromed out ones are always going to get the attention, and they're still going to sell because people are going to say, I will play that one day, and it'll still sit on their shelf for 12 or 15 years. Yeah. Maybe get pulled down once, ogled at, and I'm going to play it at a con. Maybe they do play it at a con once, but it'll just sit there and won't get played. Whereas that game that you can play in an hour, 2 hours will be the perfect one that you can play more often, especially if it's a one mapper,
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think shorter games have to be dumbed down either.
No, just keep the scope smaller. That's all.
Yeah.
You can have really fun games, just faster playing and smaller scope. They're saying about if your neighbor complains, tell them to stop looking.
No,
so they're printing 800 copies. So they are going to print more than their original. So that's going to be interesting too.
Okay, that's cool. See, where was that posted, Jeff? Was that on the East
Facebook
forum?
No, it was on Facebook.
Is that it was Freezing Inferno he's talking about?
No, Course and Pocket too.
Oh,
okay. That's cool because I haven't really seen anything.
I could see him needing 200 copies for all the reviews he had passed around.
No, that was he didn't send that to anybody except for Kev, I think, right?
No, he sent it to. He made 5 copies, I think, and Stuka Joe got one. I think he did an interview and he walked through an example of play. I played it and posted about it. Then he did 2 other copies to 2 guys who were going to write something and post it, and I don't know what happened to any of that. So, I think only Stuka Joe and I posted any video content, and I did, 8 or 10 blog posts on it as well.
Yeah, but
Rich said that it was supposed to be Eastern Front games.
Well, dude, so they made what I would call full production copies, 5 of them, right? And I think that cost a pretty penny, number one, because it's a big game, right? And there's quite a few errors that were fixed, but I don't think they had the budget to do any more, and they were only ever going to do 500. So it was kind of a catch as catch can, and they're not going to do a Kickstarter or any of that. So, you do what you can do, right? It'd be like Fabrizio saying, "Oh, I'm going to send 10 copies flying around."
Yeah. That would be tough.
That's $5,000 probably.
Yeah.
No,
$3,000.
the shipping isn't that much, and it's less than the cost of a prototype copy. So if you have 3, 4, or 5 prototype copies made, you can send that around to 15 guys and get more publicity out of it.
Yeah, but it takes months. It took me a month to get through that exercise, right? And it wasn't $15 to ship it; it was 30 plus, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big, heavy game, and it's a big box.
Wow, it's that big.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I could go grab the box and show it to you. It's big. I mean, it's not a GMT 3-incher. It's a 3-inch box and it's longer. So
Yeah.
it's an odd shape, actually.
Isn't it kind of like the Victory Point game? What was that? Gimpy's favorite, Thunder. Thunder and East. Thank you. Isn't it like that?
Hang on a second. Okay.
Okay.
It's not. It's
But it's like that shape, a rectangular.
Yeah.
Let me get it.
Go get it.
I wonder
But
where they're at with Thunder in the East, the sequel, the Mediterranean one they're doing. I haven't heard anything about that.
That thing has been. I think it's gone out of a lot of people's minds.
Alan reached out to me a long time ago. It's like 2 years ago. he reached out.
Ooh, nice.
Oh wow,
So
that is a nice copy too.
That looks similar to Fabrizio's, like that box size.
Yeah, it's about that size, right? And it doesn't have all the information on the back, of course, but
How are the rules now? Have they been adjusted, corrected?
there's some things fixed for sure, and then I don't, Jack's approach to the rules and my approach to rules consumption are just two different things, and we agreed to disagree that you just can't say refer to rule 2.1, which is don't be a jackass type of thing, which is literally what it says. Don't be gaming, right? But the rule, there's 2 full color rule books. They're not full color inside, they're black and white.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole bunch of these situation maps by that's how you set up, right? So it's you've got to have a zone of control and everything. There were some errors on those I found for them. There's this groovy little turn chart that has all the weather on it, historical weather, another setup thing. Then there's a bunch of maps in here. I think there's either 3 or 4 maps. But then you've got all these things for each formation, right?
Nice.
And there's a bunch of them. That's every army or corps has its own thing, and it's a lot of content.
Everybody type in your hashtag town hall now for Kevin's game.
Who do what?
You don't get the reference?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, hashtag town hall.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Hashtag Whiskey Charlie.
Yeah,
the Compass Show. So, anything new on Kingmaker? Nope. Other than I know that they're making one. That's about the only thing I have on that. And are you talking about the preview video I did, or are you talking about Gimpy's reviews, playthroughs? Because he did the review through.
Yeah, I did.
What are you doing right now? Are you petting your dog?
I'm fidgeting.
Oh, okay. Because you might want to. Yeah, I know it's. I
just got what the motion was. I'm sitting here bouncing it in my hand, and I realized
this is supposed to be family friendly.
The family show, buddy.
No, I just.
You know what? 6 actual wins. He has to write hashtag. Kev, send to me.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think I'm buying. I'm not going to be actually purchasing the production copy. I don't think. I'll just be happy with my little erroneous one. It's got some issues, but I'll be happy with it, I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of prototypes, I've actually been going through my collection. I've got a few for giveaways for this December for Christmas. If we do another Christmas time,
we'll do a Christmas show. Yeah, we'll do that.
That'd be cool. My stuff's all in storage. I can't get to anything I would be prepared to give away. I don't think.
Just give away the storage block. I'm good to go.
Exactly.
The time of trumpets.
Yeah.
So it was actually you, Gimpy, on the on the videos.
Thank you. Appreciate
Right
that.
here, this one.
That was a
So
lot
he's-
of videos. I kind of felt like I owed it to Mark Walker for sending me the game, though.
Yes. And speaking of Mark Walker, for those who are here, we have a special episode of Whiskey Charlie this Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Central. And we're going to be playing The Long Road, a 3-player scenario that Mark has built just for us to do a live play online. So it'll be just like last time when Kevin, I, and Mark were playing, and he was given the background and explaining rules and stuff. We'll be doing the same thing. So if you're interested in The Long Road, you will check that out. And this will be supernatural. There will be supernatural aspects to it, because I know some people have bitched about supernatural having vampires and werewolves and stuff in a World War III game, but
that's the reason to
keep
get
in
the
mind.
game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but keep in mind that there are 2 games in one box. Essentially, you're getting plenty of scenarios, and there's actually, with the expansion, it's just the straight up war game scenario. So you've got your own war game, the World War III war game itself, and then you have a separate campaign, which is the World War III with the supernatural added to it, which I think is really cool to have best of both worlds in that regard.
Yep. And I just recently played 2 scenarios and I've been enjoying. One of them was sort of all that supernatural stuff was in the background. It wasn't a game factor at all. And then the next one actually had zombies in it, and it was like nail-bitingly tense because you're firing the M1s and you're shooting your saws and all that sort of stuff, and the zombies are doing their thing. It was freaky. I actually wrote a little story up about it, posted it on that new Substack thing. But
Nice.
It's fun. It's fun.
Isn't the
and
game
that's-
similar to Armageddon War, though? So if you didn't want the supernatural, you would just get like Armageddon War.
No, it's basically the Sticks and Stones, which expanded out to be the Platoon Commander Deluxe. It's that essentially system with now the supernatural rolled in, and of course modern platforms in there, and a couple other little changes. I'm sure that'd be a great question to ask Mark on Thursday. But it's essentially, if you played any of the Platoon Commander games, whether it was with Tiny Battle or with the Flying Pig, like Kursk, the Platoon Commander Deluxe, it's the same type of system.
Yeah.
It's a little different in Armageddon War because that has custom die and everything else.
Yeah. I tell you what, now that I've played 3, 4, 5 times, it's a faster setup, faster play game. I am really, it's even faster to play than the original World at War, right? From back in the day, and clean and way cleaner. Now the new World at War 85, of course, totally different system and different approach, but 2 very good systems. I think they both do a great job.
Who's going to be the lucky fellows to get the $5 copy of A Most Fearful Sacrifice? I'm going to shoot for that.
Yeah,
but
there's 2 of them, 2 copies.
2. So, and yes, Gimpy had to do 1 video for each pound that the game weighs.
Yeah. That one is a heavy game with those big ass mounted maps and then all the counters, cards, and everything put together, and the crappy ass dice that can't roll anything but ones.
Yeah. And Jester is saying that Mark's going to be on the War Room on November 5th, and he will be on Thursday night, which apparently you were not listening when I said about Thursday night's episode, 7 Central. But that's
Same
what
time, same time as always.
Same time, same bat channel. And conventions in the coming months. Well, I could not get Kev to join at Compass Expo, despite the fact that he did say he was going, then he backed out.
I'd love to, dude, but
Nate can't make the trip. So the one I'll be going to is Compass Expo next month in a few weeks up in Connecticut. And that'll probably be it until springtime when CSW Dallas has.
That's the 15th, right? Isn't that the week? The week of the 15th?
The 11th? Well, it's what do you call it? Veterans Weekend. So it's going to be the 9th through the 13th or 14th, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think the missus will let me out of town.
9th to the 14th. Well, technically the 14th is a Monday, so you stay till Monday if you wanted to. But
sure.
No,
so yeah,
I know if I could,
weekend.
man. I'd love to be able to make it. I just can't swing it on this one. Something always keeps coming up. So hopefully next year, maybe to WBC or the con, something. I don't know. I want to go to something. It's been a while.
So they want to know, are you sporting where is it here? Minnesota North Stars polo.
No.
It does look like a North Stars polo, but it's not exactly.
It's Navy.
And yes, it is the Marine Corps birthday. So that is the first full day I'll be there. I'll be there late Wednesday night. So that's just the way the flights are flying out. They're not till like after 6. I won't get there till like, I think 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock East Coast time. So by the time we get to the hotel and everything, it'll be like, there'll be some people there, but most of the people are going to be showing up on Thursday.
Man, I'll tell you what, I actually miss the Marine Corps balls. The mandatory fun drunk evenings that we would have.
Not going to touch that.
Good thing I wasn't. Yeah, good thing I wasn't taking a drink at that time. No, I know what you meant. The mandatory party. But you can still go. They have like Marine Corps leagues near you, I'm sure. They have a Marine Corps league because they still do the ball.
They had one in Greensboro that I used to live near, but I don't know if they got one down here. I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
I would be surprised.
Check it out.
But,
the local newspaper here is requesting veteran stories. So they want to interview a whole bunch of veterans for Veterans Day, and post them for the whole week around that time period. I thought
nice.
that was pretty cool for the local paper to do that.
Yeah, that is. I like
Big
that.
community here. Big community.
They can interview you, Mo. You don't live too far away from Kevin.
Well, not that close either. This is Texas. I mean, it's close. It's close in Texas, standards, but it's not that close. But it's like what, 3 hours? 2.5, 3 hours?
I'd say it's 3 hours. Yeah.
So about 3 hours away, which in Texas is close. But for other states, that's like a state or two away. For some states, so it is different. This is true. But I think that's cool that they're doing that. But Compass Expo will be next month, and that'll be it for the year. And then I think the only other conventions that are going on is going to be the SD HIST, or now they're calling it Summit, I think is what they're calling it, in San Diego. That's Harold Buchanan's. And then there's nothing until the World War III Con, which is very tempting, but that's also in January, February, I think, out in Seattle.
What's the World War III Con?
That's right before. What's the one in Seattle? It's the week before that one in Seattle.
The February one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Game on. Yeah.
Game on.
You could not.
So it's the week prior to that.
To go to Seattle. I don't care what convention they were having there. I would never go to Seattle.
Yeah. I'm not going to it anymore. I'm not going to put my money in that state.
Well, the World War III, the theme of the convention is definitely something I would love to go to. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not central in the United States. I would love it. It was somewhere in the middle part of the country.
You could do it. You could do it at Mitch's con that he runs.
That's true. That the only drawback to that is that's kind of like CSW. It like falls in the worst time for me because it's like right after July or right around July. Right. And July is our anniversary, my wife's birthday, my birthday. So it's always take time off just to do all those things. And it doesn't leave me time to go to conventions and stuff, which sucks because I really wanted to go.
I think his one's April or May, isn't it? Is Mitch still here? I don't know if he is. Right.
I think Mitch was here. That one, wasn't that August or June? I think it was August.
I think it's April, May. I forget. I went. So I don't know when it is. It's not
the next War Con, History on the Table. Game On, World War III is in Bellevue. Oh, he's being technical here. Mid to late April.
Yeah, they're both pretty bad.
What was the other one? What was the other one, though? History on the Table. They had that one.
I'm talking about
KC Con.
That small other group from the podcast.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Donkey.
They have a content. Yeah.
That was in August. Historic KC Fest. That's it. Yes.
That's the one you were talking about, right?
Yeah, that was the one. That's the next War Con. That I definitely would enjoy that.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Well, maybe we should try and work out if we can get to that.
Where's that one? Is that Kentucky?
Kansas City.
Okay, I was going to say, no, the Kentucky's KT. So, yeah. I can't get to any of these. They're all like freaking 11 hours away from me. Nothing is held anywhere near where I live.
Yeah. Well, what you need to do is you need to get your wife to drive you to the airport. Get one of the porters with the little wheelchair to wheel you to the aircraft and take you on and hold your hand and sit you down and feed you and give you little wings.
I'll tell you, it's actually kind of
And then
nice.
escort you off the plane.
If you got a cane and you go on an airplane, they let you get on first. That's the only benefit to it.
True. And they'll let you keep the cane.
No,
They won't make you check it.
They took it.
They made you check it.
They took it from me when we got to the airport, and they did not give it back to me until I got near the plane because it was made of metal. They gave me a
But you can still.
one.
Oh, they gave you a wooden one.
Yeah.
So they didn't. Yeah. Okay.
Evidently,
Well, at
did
least they did
stand-ins.
that.
Yeah,
Because I was going to say, they still allow you to take a 7-inch screwdriver on a plane, don't they?
hell if I know, man. Stupid rules. It's like,
Which
how
has
much
always
is this
made me
gonna bother
laugh.
someone?
Well, it could be a weapon.
Now, one of
That's
the
what
ones
they're.
for Christmas a couple years back, she actually got me a cane that had a sword in it, so I was very happy with that one.
That's pretty cool.
But airport won't let me take that one on.
The last con you'll ever need.
Oh, we're getting ready to be.
Yeah, I've done the California thing, and I would not live there out of my own pocket. I'll put it that way. I lived there on government expense.
Yeah.
Pendleton was great, but I no, it's way too expensive there. It's way too expensive in California for me.
Dude, when I was in BAH was something like $3,000 a month for California.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean,
That's insane.
That was 20 years ago, though. I mean, it was only $600 in North Carolina, like $650 or some shit. So I could only imagine what it is now. It'd have to be like $4,000 or $5,000.
That's insane. What was this? I have a Judas Priest British steel razor keychain. Last time I went through TSA was. That sucks. It was confiscated. Yeah, that's well. Ardwolf had his clippers taken from him, his counter clippers.
Oh, weapon. Yeah,
because they're definitely a weapon.
It wasn't. Was it the Oregon laminate counter clippers?
It was it was a smaller one. It was not the deluxe. It was the metal one. So
okay, that was the first one that I got. I didn't know which one to get.
It was awesome. I still use that one. I still have my original one. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're great, but you have to be careful with them. But so that'll be it. Will be the convention for that, and then of course we'll have CSW Dallas in the spring. Not sure exactly what month that'll be yet, but that'll be sometime springtime, like March, April, May. And then, of course, the summer of conventions like KC Historic Fest and all that stuff that everybody is gearing up for, CSW, things like that next summer. So that should be interesting. But any last words here before we sign off for the night?
No last words from me. Everyone have a good week and roll dice.
For me, I will tell you guys, I've got a lot of interesting stuff already filmed or coming up. I've got one thing I want to tell people about, but I can't because it's currently on an embargo. But
secret.
Stay tuned. It's a World War III thing. You'll like it. It looks really, really cool. I mentioned it to you earlier, Mo, so you know what I'm talking about.
Ooh.
But it is on embargo until tomorrow. I'll be able to talk about it after that. So stay tuned for that. And I've got a little Heroescape coming up. I'm going old school.
And I can tell you what the game Gimpy was talking about before. Oh, damn it. It was muted. Oh, well, that was your one chance.
That's funny. That's funny.
Anyway, like I said, Thursday night, 7:00, we'll be back here for the long road, where it's going to be called An Ounce of Prevention. There will be 3 sides to it because it's going to be 3-player. There's also going to be some zombies, some vampires, and a whole lot of fun and a lot of shooting. So definitely come check it out if you've not seen The Long Road played. You know, Kev and I had done that, and Kev was smoking me as I was trying to get across with the Soviets. It was so bad it was funny. And so I think this one will be a little bit more of a potpourri of mayhem, where we're all going to kind of just get into this cauldron and just, slap the shit out of things, which I think is going to be awesome fun. Awesome. So come check it out on Thursday night. If you've not seen The Long Road, if you've been curious about it, definitely watch that, and you'll get to see it played with Kev and me and Nate and Mark Walker. So that's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on Thursday night. Have a good night, everyone.